So, as you can tell, this is definitely a different video. And what I mean by this isn't a creepy video or a scripted video. This is pretty much a series where I talk about stuff that I think about, like what comes to mind, my opinions, stuff like that. About video games, movies, shows, anything on the internet that isn't creepy content. But when I mean creepy, I don't mean like I'm just not going to single out horror games. Horror games are still going to be included in this. That's the only media that is still creepy in the series. It's just games. I'm not going to cover up horror movies. I'm not really going to cover movies that much, but what I do is probably going to have to be like a video game based on a movie. Other way around, actually. Movie based off a video game. You know what I mean, though. But the first topic on here is obviously my opinion, and what I'm going to say about this series is that you can agree or disagree with my opinion, but you can't disrespect it, right? So that's all I'm going to say. Especially for this first entry, you can't really. I mean, you can. I mean, I'm not forcing you to not disrespect me. I can take it, but it is kind of a dick move. So yeah. Well, this first entry, well, I'm not really going to say entry, this first opinion of mine is a Resident Evil opinion. So we're going to need the correct music for it. So here you go. Resident Evil music. Anyways, this first one is, what do I think? What does Parakai think? Me, pretty much, think about the future of Resident Evil. In terms of content and media, right? And I don't mean as in... this could do with story. But what I think could happen next is, since RE4 Remake came out, we're going to get another 2 remakes. These are just predictions. I'm just saying now. This isn't completely confirmed at all. This is what I think. But there could be 2 other remakes. Obviously, Code Veronica, that game needs polishing up 100%, and it does make sense to remake it. It's a true sequel to RE2. And RE5 Remake, why do we need an RE5 Remake? 1, the game's fucked. 2, RE4 Remake is like the perfect reason like the ending to RE4 Remake. I haven't played it myself, but I've seen the ending, and I can say this myself. The ending for it is a perfect way to start RE5 Remake, so it does make sense. And after RE5 Remake, we could get a Revelations 3, which could take place shortly after the new movie Death Island comes out, because it does make sense to me, And then we'll probably get RE9. Yeah, because we need to, we need more games continuing the story than games that just go back and fix old ones, like remakes. But I do get that the remakes are a good thing, but we need something that obviously pushes the story forward, and we're getting Death Island, which does make sense, but it doesn't push it after Village. It pushed it back a couple years from Village, because Death Island takes place in 2015, and Village took place in 2021, so that's a 6-year gap, I think. Yeah, it's a 6-year gap. It pushes us already back by 6 years, but that is still a good thing, because we are still sat in the 2010s, 2020s part. But then I feel like the next RE game, RE9, is going to take place in after Shadows of Rose DLC, because the DLC has pushed the time forward again, which isn't always the case. For example, RE5's DLC, Lost in Nightmares, pushed the time back, but it was to tell a backstory pretty much. But a DLC that pushes the time forward obviously is going to move the next game forward. So, yeah. And I don't think Chris would have to be a protagonist, or Leon's going to have to be a protagonist, because they're going to be in their 50s by then. I think there's going to be a new character introduced. Maybe after RE9 and RE10, we might get a new set of games focused on newer characters, not the OG cast. We get an OG cast and then a new gen cast. That's what I think is just going to happen. Not opinion, but facts, like I've said for like the 3rd time. So don't completely bash me for it. But we're going to move on to the next thing now. So if you hear any noises, like rumbly noises like this, because my mic stand broke, and I'm just holding the microphone now, and it's kind of fun, but it's also kind of annoying, and you can also hear a fan in the background, because my room is pretty hot. I don't know why. It's like 8 degrees and it's raining right now in the UK. It's 8 a.m. as well. But listen, you can hear the fan. Yeah, you can hear it. So that's something I just wanted to get into before the entry. Well, next opinion. I keep saying entry. So, and remember when I said, well, I'm not willing to talk about horror? I think that's not going to be a thing anymore because I still want to talk about it, but not as often. I'm going to talk about other lighthearted stuff. Sometimes it's not lighthearted, sometimes it can be really mean, but you know, it is what it is. But I want to talk about what I absolutely fucking hate about horror, and it doesn't, and I mean like YouTube horror, internet horror, stuff like that, or just things overdone in horror. The first thing I'm going to point out is I fucking hate analog horror so much because they try and strive for the same exact fucking thing every time, and it is kind of boring. Like, it's, oh look, it's man, and then there's also man, but distorted picture. People try to do it like Mandela catalog, and it is just really annoying. I like Local 58, and there's this smaller one called My Happiest Days. I think it's small, can't remember, but it is really good. I don't hate all of them. I just hate some of them because they all have distorted pictures and it's just overdone, to be honest. Local 58 is really unique though because I don't really see any analog horrors like that anymore. But you know, that's just my opinion. Like I say, you can like say actually analog horror this different aspects, because there are definitely different aspects. Yeah, I can agree with that, but most of the time it's overdone with the same shit. And also the next thing I'm going to get into is jump scares. Jump scares are so overdone that they are kind of predictable nowadays when I play like a horror game. I mean like many examples of jump scares. I don't mean this just from like newer games that came out in the last year or so. I mean games from a long time ago. If you played the original RE4, you know the guy that hops out that like oven thing and he's on fire? That has never scared me at all. I know this is me going, oh look, he's not scared of it. No, seriously, I've never had a fear of the fucking guy. It felt kind of predictable, to be honest, because it's slow and it's ominous, yeah, sure, but I knew something was going to come anyway. I feel like that's just the way it is, because I'm like all senses playing horror games already, so it's just probably how I think things through. But if your game does center around jump scares, they are way better, because if your whole game centers around it, like FNAF for example, is a little bit unpredictable. You could just be chilling in like FNAF, you wouldn't know, nightfall, bang, you just get jump scared out of random by Freddy or something, right? So I get that, that's good. I like that kind of jump scare. But jump scares in other games, it's just kind of iffy, you know? Like, especially in like later Resident Evil titles, and I don't mean like 7 and 8, I mean like around the 2000s period, around RE4, they tried to implement more jump scares in an action-oriented RE game, and it just never worked at all, because the environment as a whole was a bit, you know, more faster paced, and then a random jump scare wouldn't do anything at all. I mean, especially RE5. I mean, I remember I nearly got scared once playing RE5. I mean, RE5 is pretty much just a reskin of RE4, but in Africa. That's just how I always thought of it. But that's just enough rambling of Resident Evil. Another thing, oh god, other thing I hate in horror is that same fucking cliche of just, this is actually the bad person. Like, it's kind of obvious at this point, mate. It doesn't work anymore for me. Like, you know, like the unexpected person's actually the bad guy kind of thing, and everyone's just like, oh no, he's bad. But I always knew he acted a bit like a weirdo the whole time, to be honest. That's why it's just so obvious. That's why I'm never surprised. Literally, I just don't give a shit. Like, bruv, like, so what? I knew that. Now it just sounds like me complaining. But last thing I want to get into, fuck's sake, what was it again? Dark web shit. Oh, that shit is so boring, man. Actually, dark web bullshit, because it's like, oh my god, you watch people die on there and stuff and all this stuff. Yeah, that does happen, but people over exaggerate the way it actually is, to be honest with you. It's way over exaggerated, it's oversaturated, to to be honest. Like, say for example, I mean, the dark web stuff does happen, but apparently it's more rare. People are just selling illegal substances on there mostly. But I have seen cases where people are selling downright CP, and I don't mean COD points. I'm serious. Like, I watched Tov's video about it, and there's people selling like stuff on there, but it's not common at all. It's just people selling like cannabis and guns and hitmen. They think it's all bad. People die on there. You see people die on there. You can see that on the surface web, on like gore sites and Reddit. It's not just a dark web exclusive thing where you see people die. That's just enough for me rambling now. I think I'm just gonna go.